Born in Montreal, Richard Pinnock is a Senior Manager for Diversity and Inclusion at Walmart Canada. He has also served as Director at York University, Senior Manager at PricewaterhouseCoopers, Managing Director at Inroads, and Director at the Royal Canadian Mint. He holds a Bachelor of Commerce from McGill University and an MBA in International Business from York University. A community advocate, Pinnock has done some community development work with the Halton Regional Police, Toronto Police, Peel Halton Workforce Development Group, and the Caribbean Association of Halton. He was recently awarded the Association of Black Law Enforcement's Community Service Award and the 2019 We Connect International Canadian Supplier Diversity Champion Award.
Welcome to Planet Africa. I am Patricia Baby Omawa. On today's program, we have a very special guest. He's a leader in diversity management, strategic planning, marketing, communications, and more. His wealth of experience spans the public and private sector. He's currently a senior manager for diversity and inclusion at Walmart. I'm talking about Richard Pinnock. Hey, Richard, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Patricia. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Oh, it's so great to have you. It's special because, you know, my first job was at Walmart.
Yeah, great. Well, we have 90,000 employees, and many, many Canadians have that opportunity. Students, newcomers to Canada. It's part of the Canadian tradition, I think, in terms of getting started.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was reading your resume and I was really blown away by how much you've achieved in so many areas. So tell us a little bit about yourself and some of the things you've been involved with.
I was born in Montreal, if we go back there, so je suis Québécois, je parle français, I speak French, I'm very proud of that. In my family, I'm the first person to graduate from high school, and beyond high school, of course, I did the Bachelor of Commerce at McGill, and then an MBA afterwards at York University, so I'm very proud of that. Just after graduating from McGill, there's very few jobs available. So I had my car, it's kind of a junker a little bit, but I was very, very proud to go, and I was one of the few that had this opportunity. So I went into this national paint company, and I arrived at the door, and the lady, the office manager, said, "Yes, can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, I'm here for the interview from McGill." And she's like, she looked at me kind of funny, and she said, "Okay, have a seat. We have a questionnaire. It's going to take, you have 12 minutes to complete it. You have 12 minutes to complete it, and there's 50 questions, but don't worry about completing it because nobody's ever completed it in 14 years that I've been doing this." And I said, "Okay." So she set one of those old kitchen timer things, and she went into her area, and I sat down, and I started doing the questionnaire. And 11 minutes later, I knocked on her door, and she looked up, like she's like, "What did I not explain to this guy?" Like she's all angry, you know. So I'm like, "Uh-oh." I gave her the test. She said, "Have a seat." So I sat down. She came out. She was quite surprised, and she said, "Well, you did very well." And I said, how did I do?" And she said, "Well, you got 44 right." And I said, "What was the highest score in 14 years?" She said, 45. But I finished in 11 minutes.
Wow.
So she said, "Well, you did very well, but I have to tell you, I'm not going to be able to put you forward because I'm afraid that I would lose my job if I did so." She said that they're very conservative, et cetera, et cetera. So from a minority point of view, she would fear that she would lose her job. And you know, I've shared this scenario thousands of times now. I do a lot of speaking with the Toronto Police, Halton Police, universities and so on. And people say, "Oh, you should go talk to the boss," and so on. But you know what I did? I got back in my car. I still remember it was a beautiful sunny day, and I said, "I'm going to do whatever I can to stop other Canadians from having this experience," and I'm still doing it today.
Wow. Your biggest passion, as you explained, is, you know, inclusion, diversity, equity, and all that. One of the things that I would like us to talk about is equality when it comes to women being represented either in the corporate world and government, or just having opportunities equally as men. What have you to say about that?
Well, you know, this is one of the questions we talk about. What can we do better? What about representation? What percentage of Indigenous people do you have working? You know, we've been having that discussion. You know, I feel very firmly in my mind that since the Abella Commission, which was 1984, Rosalie Abella wanted to put together some kind of a strategy, if you will, to figure out how do we leverage the underrepresented labor force here in Canada. And it was made up of women, people, visible minority, Native or Indigenous people, and also people with disability. Those are the four groups. a third of a century later, we haven't had much progress. 33 years later, the Act came into effect in 1986. It's a third of a century. And look at the results. We have, in Canada, the top 500 companies, 109 companies don't have a single woman on their board of directors.
That is sad.
When you look at representation in the parliament, only 27% of our current representation in federal government is female, and we rank 63rd behind countries like Rwanda, Sudan, and others. So clearly there's a lot of work to be done, but if we keep doing the same thing over and over and expect different results, what do they call that, Patricia?
Insanity.
Right? Yeah, so I think that we have to pivot, and I realize recently that the real opportunity lies in this area of diversity and supplier diversity.
Let's talk about supplier diversity, because that's a new frontier. How is that going with a lot of the major corporations, and what can be done to ensure that there's proper representation in terms of contracts for minorities, women, and other people who don't get opportunities often?
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to say that in the U.S. is like 20 years ahead in terms of supplier diversity. Walmart committed its Women's Economic Empowerment Program, which had 3 planks. Number 1, $20 billion in goods and services procured from women-owned businesses. Number 2, train 1 million women in emerging markets, Sub-Saharan Africa, India, places like that, which we've accomplished. And the third one is to double procurement from international markets, including Canada. So there's a lot being done, but in Canada, if we think about that, a recent study by Deloitte showed that only 2% of the companies surveyed indicated that they have a focus on supplier diversity. So as a woman, if you have your own women-owned business and you're looking to use your certification and call 100 companies in Canada, 98 of them won't know what you're talking about when you talk about being a woman-owned business or a certified-owned business. So again, this is why I say this is really the new frontier. There's lots of work that we have to focus on in this area.
Great. Now, I would like to take a short break, and when we come back, I would like to speak about some of the organizations that are helping to, ensure that women are represented, and a little bit more about supplier diversity. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Richard Pinnock.
Planet Africa Television will be right back.
Afro Global Television is a global super channel that transforms the destiny of people of African descent through programming that informs, empowers, entertains, and uplifts. The mission of Afro Global is to showcase the best of Africa and the diaspora. Watch Afro Global Television on Rogers Cable, Bell 5, TELUS, and Eastlink.
We still have Richard Pinnock here with us, who is a senior manager for diversity and inclusion at Walmart. He's also an expert in diversity management, strategic planning, marketing, communications, and more. So Richard, we're talking about supplier diversity. What are the benefits of supplier diversity?
The benefits of supplier diversity are unlimited. When you look at the immigration into Canada, people with expertise in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. We hear about people with 2 degrees, 3 degrees driving Ubers. I think we have to get these folks to start driving our economy and stop driving cars.
I like that.
Yeah, so this is unlimited. What's happening is when you see the representation is so low, we've had such a little change for women and all different underrepresented groups. I think the new frontier, as I say, is to now start empowering and tapping into this unlimited source, whether it's railroad ties, whether it's cloud-based computing, it's just limitless. The potential we have here, the entrepreneurs are passionate and they're ready to go.
What are the problems that a lot of the companies face in trying to be equitable in terms of providing opportunities to suppliers of minority backgrounds or women? What would they say is a problem?
Yeah. Well, the Abella report talked about employment equity, right? I'm not too fond of that word. In the US, we talk about affirmative action, which is a kind of a hot topic, but I'm saying let's be affirmative here. Let's be proactive. It's not about equity, right? It's about let's get the top talent, the top tools, the top solutions the top suppliers. Many of the suppliers don't know how to navigate these large companies, right? So that's problem number one. We have a very interesting body of certification organizations. We Connect, CAMC, the LGBT group, the Chamber of Commerce, and a number of organizations. Their challenge is that so many companies don't understand what they're offering, which is to certify you as a woman-owned business. Now you go and the companies don't understand, right? There's also entrenched suppliers that have, very large organizations, a lot of, bureaucracy, there's a lot of rules. On the government side as well, with NAFTA and soon the USMCA, the government is actually limited, right, in terms of actually procuring goods and services from groups based on ethnicity and so on. So I think what we need to do is we have to connect and work together, and this idea of collaboration to create value, that's the strategy that we're advocating at Walmart. I'm very proud that my colleagues at Walmart have adopted this approach.
Yeah, and I like what you said earlier about the fact that Walmart was investing in capacity building for women, especially in the developing world. I know my mom is a supplier to Walmart in Africa, but what can be done right here in Canada, to help women suppliers, women entrepreneurs or minorities, because sometimes there is a little bit of disadvantage in terms of capacity. So what have you to say in terms of the government or some of the corporations even investing in talent in terms of capacity building?
Okay, so organizations like BDC, Economic Development Bank, Export Development Bank, all wonderful, okay? If you're a woman-owned business, I would suggest that you get on the phone like right now, okay? There's all sorts of support and funds and travel, it's all there. Unfortunately, entrepreneurs are so busy, they're not taking the time to tap into this. So that's one thing I like to strongly recommend to everybody. So all different organizations that are representing different elements of diversity should tap into that. The other thing that what we're doing at Walmart is that we've decided that we're going to try to contribute strategic value, and this is the program that we worked on. What we suggested to WeConnect, which we are an international sponsor for WeConnect International, we suggested that they can invite all their members to come to Walmart and meet 45 of our buyers. We spent a full day. It was a 6-hour day. We talked about opportunities. So let's say we had one example, this one young lady. She did temporary staffing services, and she's doing administrative staffing, which, that's sort of like from the 80s, right? So we suggested, hey, why don't you look at getting certification for food handling? Because if you're working at a company like Maple Leaf, even in marketing, you have to do the certification for food handling in Ontario. Oh, wow. Okay. So why don't you talk to the government, certify newcomers, get everybody certified, call Walmart and say, when it's Thanksgiving and Christmas, we have 1 million turkeys being handled, I can take care of your temporary staffing needs. And she said, wow, that's a really good idea. So these are the ideas that we shared with them. But then after that, after lunch, we actually had a session, 2 50-minute sessions where we did pitches, and we actually signed up several, I can't really share the numbers, but it far exceeded 10 times what our expectation was. And I was just totally blown away by the ingenuity, the passion, the innovation, right, of these women. It was just unbelievable. I said to myself, seriously, like, why are these women having to go through all these hoops and all that? So Walmart was there. We explained how to, the Ariba system, different systems, not that hard, right? But if somebody's there to help and to guide you, and again, this collaboration between government, corporation, and the organizations like WeConnect International, I think that's the way to go.
Wow. I know a lot of people watching may be wondering what WeConnect is. Tell us about WeConnect International.
WeConnect International operates in 47 countries, including Africa. And so what they do is they certify women. In countries like the US, as I mentioned, $20 billion in 5 years, we have to make sure you're a female-owned business, right? So there's a whole industry of just certifying women, and they have in Canada just over 400 members, and they're looking to expand. There's also WBE Canada, which is another women's group. I mentioned CAMC and several others that are all doing this yeoman's work. Like, it's really, really a good job that they're doing. However, what we need in the corporations is to understand what it means to be a woman-owned company, because if only 98%, if 98% don't understand what that means, then the woman who's certified is going to have a hard time getting in. So it has to be a collaborative effort to create value.
Recently, you were honored by WeConnect International with the Champion Award. How was it like to receive that award?
So I was hoping Walmart Canada would be recognized, and much to my surprise, they called out the 2019 Supplier Diversity Champion, Richard Pinnock, and honestly, I was emotional. I got, quite emotional on the stage and hard time finding my words and so on. But, it was like a vision, like it hit me. I thought, look at all of these wonderful people from Quebec, all across Canada, all these women, so smart, so talented, and it made me realize that this truly is the next frontier.
Wow, you've done so much for diversity, and you're such an inspiration, and I do really admire the work that you do, and I think this conversation is a conversation that we need to have more often, and we need to involve the corporations and everyone, because this is the new frontier, as you said. Well, we'll take another short break and we'll continue our conversation with Richard Pinnock. Stay with us.
Planet Africa Television will be right back.
Welcome back. It's been an exciting day here at the studio because we've been discussing issues that I'm very passionate about: diversity, inclusion, equity, and all that. And I do have a man here who is a leader in diversity management, strategic planning. He's done so much for diversity in Canada and internationally. So Richard is here, and Richard, you've done so much for diversity, and I must thank you. I know the experience you shared earlier about what you experienced when you were trying to get a job, and how this has inspired you to do what you do. It's really incredible. So what inspires you to continue after all these years to be a champion for diversity?
What inspires me? Well, I have two amazing daughters, Marika and Kiara. So they're my inspiration every day, and they're just absolutely fantastic. And they've been on the journey since they were 6 years old. They've been helping at all these different volunteer speaking events and so on. So that is really my inspiration. But you mentioned it was 33 years ago, almost to the day, that I was in my car, and it was a sunny day, and I said to myself, I'm going to do everything possible to avoid this happening to other Canadians. It's just not right. So I'm still doing my best. That's what I'm trying to do, and that really is what motivates me. I strive to help people reach their full potential, and I think there's no better thing to do. I think we should all try to help each other.
Great. Now, looking at the horizon, in terms of diversity, what do you think the future holds?
Well, I think we look at the population trends. Canada is the leader among G7. Most of us that have international experience know that Canada and Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal are global destination cities. So it's just a matter of time before Canada becomes the diverse center, I think, of the world. So we have the talent, we have the resources, we have a wonderful political system. We're really blessed to have the country that we're all, that we all call home. So I think the future is going to have lots of opportunity for all Canadians, and if we can achieve that, and if I can contribute in my own small little way, maybe 50, 60 years down the road, we're going to see a much different place. We'll become a beacon for the rest of the world, demonstrating that despite our differences, we can live in harmony, prosperously, and live together, and take care of our families and enjoy life.
We should all sort of take advantage of the opportunities before us and follow your footsteps and do whatever we can in our little way to promote equity, diversity, and all that. We're just going to take another short break, and when we come back, I'd like to speak to Richard about what people out there can do to take advantage of opportunities, both in the corporate world and in the public sector. Don't go away.
Planet Africa Television will be right back.
Welcome back. You're still watching Planet Africa Television, and we're having a conversation with Richard Pinnock, who is a Senior Manager for Diversity and Inclusion at Walmart. Some people watching right now are wondering how they can position themselves to take advantage of the opportunities that are out there, be it in the corporate world or in the public sector. What have you to say to people watching, especially entrepreneurs, on what they need to do, the steps they need to take to be able to become suppliers, to major companies like yours, Walmart?
Okay. Well, I would say that 2 words, soft skills. So first of all, on this idea of representation, if you're going in and you're trying to find a job and you're being interviewed and so on, I'm part of the local employment planning council for Peel Halton, and we do an annual survey. 653 companies responded. 56% said that there's either a lack of soft skills or a particular lack of soft skills. We used to hear that there was a lack of Canadian experience. Now we're hearing that there's a lack of soft skills. Back to the supplier diversity side, I think it's equally important. The way you conduct yourself, how you present yourself, how you speak, your persistence when you're calling potential buyers. I know you're very busy. I really appreciate you taking the call. I sent you my information. I'd be very happy to send it again, or I can drive down if you'd like. I know you're busy, but if you can help me out here, I think I have a solution that's going to generate thousands of dollars of profitability for you, and we have an opportunity, blah, 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 right? You have to speak that way, and I often coach, like with Weekend, I had 143 phone calls with the women there, and this helped them navigate. So that's part of the key thing. But soft skills and how you present yourself is very, very important. In fact, for all the youth out there, it's very, very important that you get out of this sort of like you're uncomfortable. You have to get out of your comfort zone and smile a little bit, and say hello. There's a whole number of things that can be done. In fact, I'm working on research. It's a book called Mastering Soft Skills. So for 16 months, every night I'd send out 35 or 40, I think I sent one to you, requests to complete my survey. So I've sent out over 16,000 individual requests, and I've now achieved the goal of 1,200 completed surveys.
Wow.
This survey ranks soft skills depending on police and emergency, private sector, education, public. So if you're looking for a job with police and emergency services, wouldn't you want to know what the top 6 soft skills are ranked by police officers? I think so, right? So there's stuff out there that you can do, but it's very, very important. Again, especially for parents, you have to get your children to start practicing these soft skills. How you present yourself, how you speak, confidence, it's very, very, very important.
Wow. And these are things that many people do not really value or do not recognize as being important. These are small things that mean a lot, especially in getting you a big break or opportunity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to the book. So let me know when it drops so I can, get my copy and educate myself. Well, it's been really great having you, Richard. It's been an enlightening conversation. I've learned a lot, and I hope you have too. I think we need to bring you back because this conversation needs to continue. And these are very important issues, and Canadians, we have to continue to talk about diversity and equity, and especially for women and minorities. So hope you come back.
Yeah. And thank you to Planet Africa for leading the way here on this pioneering discussion. Really appreciate what you're doing and everything you do for the community. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It was really great having you. And thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. I hope you've learned as much as I have. Until next time, I'm Patricia Baby Mawa. Take care.